Let me handle this one.
I got it.
Okay.
What is up? Welcome back to another episode of Pain Points, where the world meets business, where we tackle the ever-changing landscape of entrepreneurship with you as you're building it. Samson Jagoras, how are you this morning?
I'm good, bro. How are you?
Good. I was joking behind the scenes that we're covering K-Dot versus Kendrick Lamar. Dude, I'm struggling this morning, guys. K-Dot and Kendrick Lamar are the same person.
They are.
He's fighting himself, apparently, just like Drake is fighting himself. But actually, what we're going to cover today, we got a lot to cover. We got Chinese real estate. It's over leveraged and ready to burst.
Yep.
We're going to talk about Red Lobster, that wonderful lobster and crab.
Oldie but a goodie.
Soon you will be not able to get that anymore.
That's probably part of the reason, because I haven't ate Red Lobster in a minute. I can't even tell you the last time I've been to Red Lobster. That's how long it's been. I have a gift card that I've never used from probably 10 years ago.
Okay, we're going to talk about hers and hims and hers. Official news, breaking news. Samson canceled his account, along with many others. We're going to dig into that. We're going to talk about small business owners voicing their actual concerns. They went through and surveyed these small business owners. What are your actual concerns this election season, which you want to hear covered by the candidates? Yep. We're going to talk about AI searches skyrocketing on platforms like Fiverr, Upwork, where people are looking for AI labor.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then we're going to talk about the head of our we're going to talk about the chair of our nation's economic advisors. He's trending online this weekend.
Yeah.
And not for good reasons. We're going to talk about the Daily Wire. We're going to talk about students learning real time of the consequences of protesting. And then just some advice for young people. But we're going to lead us off with our new thing we're doing with the funniest clips of the past week that I've compiled for my partner here. He gets to see them cold and fresh, and I get to see them with him, and we get to chuckle, and you guys along with us.
So I always keep this fake Hollywood money in my car. So when a homeless person asks for money, then I give them like a fake $5 bill. So I feel good about myself. They feel good. And then when they go to use it, they get arrested. So I'm actually like helping clean up the community, you know, getting them off the street.
It's ridiculous.
That's messed up.
It's ridiculous. I just love how he says it with a straight face.
Yeah.
All right. Clip number 2 here is we got baby preschool Trump.
Welcome back to another edition of the Preschool Apprentice, okay? Today, my mommy had a call from the teacher, okay? And the teacher said that I socked somebody, okay? And quite frankly, I think that's gross. I think that's so disgusting. Why would I take my socks off of my feet and throw them at somebody else, okay? All I did was give Tommy a little bump, okay? A little fist bump, okay? And she said that I socked him, okay? I don't know where she gets socked out of a fist bump, okay? I didn't take my socks off. My socks are still on. They're tremendous socks, by the way. They got little duckies on them, okay? But I don't know. They're little ducky socks. I love them. They're ducky walkies. But quite frankly, I don't know why she said I socked somebody. I didn't sock anybody. Nobody got socked. All the socks are on, okay? There was no socking, okay?
Not bad at all.
Is that an app that does a voiceover?
Well, I don't know. I thought at first it got me until we hit about 30 seconds because I was like, oh, let me just pull this up.
I think it's probably like an AI voiceover generator. And you just talking normal, doing the facial expressions. And
that was for a second. I was like, yo, this little kid is impressive. But nonetheless.
He's pretty funny, though. He does have the kind of mammering.
He's got some courage, too, some confidence to go for it.
Yeah.
I know the baby face is a TikTok filter.
Okay.
Is it?
Okay.
There you go.
Resident Gen Z master over here. Thank you for helping us boomers figure that out.
Not quite boomers. I'll never forget when I had like a Gen Alpha kid say, okay, boomer to me. I'm like, man, there's a big disconnect going on.
In today's news, a minor was beat up in the street.
Our first question, 1 + 1.
Oh man, I saw this one.
Yes.
2.
Incorrect. Yes.
Multiculturalism.
Well done, Simon. Next question. What is 3 × 3? Yes?
9.
Wrong. Yes, Penelope.
Gender equality.
Very good, Penelope.
Is this a joke?
You think gender equality is a joke?
No,
She's
but isn't this
scary,
a math
dude.
class?
Don't be so racist.
I just asked a question.
We don't ask questions. Questions are offensive.
Yeah! Let me see this. They've just written equality and drawn love hearts on a piece of paper.
He expressed himself, and it's beautiful.
He didn't even spell equality correctly.
We don't discriminate.
This has nothing to do with mathematics.
You think you're so great with your maths and your science and your facts. What about feelings, huh?
Yeah. Feelings are more important than facts.
This is wrong. You're all crazy.
Stop violating me with your different opinions.
I have the right to speak my mind.
No, we have the right not to be offended.
And that's more important.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Okay, we should do a side-by-side of her, that girl, and Sydney Sweeney. Because that just was like, the profiles were cracking me up there. All right, but back to the real world. Nonetheless, thanks for tuning in with that gag.
Hey, so if you're a regular listener of the show, you know that we believe in entrepreneurs. In fact, we are calling you guys to regularly take action in your community and in this country. And entrepreneurs are going to be the way that we move this country forward. Well, with that said, entrepreneurs make up 70% of the economy. And there is a massive opportunity on the horizon, which is buying businesses. Literally thousands of small to medium-sized businesses are coming to the market and looking for entrepreneurs just like you to buy them. The problem is it's incredibly challenging and fragmented and hard to navigate. That's why we created Clearly Acquired. It is a marketplace that connects brokers and their listings and buyers with community, education, finance, weekly coaching calls, monthly webinars, weekly newsletters, and ultimately one-on-one coaching to help you buy your next business. Let's face it, most of us are not going to go on to build an Uber or a Twitter or a Facebook. Most of us are going to end up in boring businesses, but that's where the real money will be made. Boring businesses. We're talking HVAC, contracting, concrete, people that are really creating and building this economy. So if that sounds interesting to you, head on over to clearlyacquired.com where you can sign up for a free 14-day trial and join the community. From there, you'll start connecting with other buyers, brokers, listings, get access to the course, join the weekly coaching calls, and ultimately be on your way to buying your next business.
Okay, so Buzzy healthcare company Hims and Hers lost nearly $200 million in stock value in a single day after the CEO said he and other executives were eager to hire anti-Israel student protesters who faced disciplinary actions from other universities. The online sexual health and pharmaceutical company plummeted 8% last Friday from its opening price of $12.24 to $11.26, just 2 days after the CEO made the comments. In the particular tweet, which we might pull up, we have a link to that, but we can just read some of it here in the article. He says, "Moral courage is greater than a college degree. If you're currently protesting against the genocide of the Palestinian people and for your university divestment from Israel, keep going. It's working. There are plenty of companies and CEOs eager to hire you, regardless of university discipline. Apply here." Well, interestingly enough, the first comment says, well, guess your company went down the drain. He said that 7 days ago. And well, turns out $200 million in losses led him to walk back his statements.
And I might add that it's mainly because yesterday I canceled my account.
Yes.
I've been a Hims user. Your boy's hair is not what it used to be. I mean, it's worked pretty good. The whole online ordering process is really sweet. And I really canceled it because I don't see it as effective, but timing wise sucks for him. There's a lot of competing products out there that do exactly what they do.
Yes.
And so that's the positive and the negative of capitalism. This is how a capitalistic society works.
Correct.
Right? You make a great product. I buy it. I don't like who you are. I don't like what you stand for. I don't have to buy it.
Correct.
And the consumer ultimately drives in a product-driven type of business like this. Whether you make it or you break it.
Facts. Well, and that reality of that is, I think, what has led him to walk this back. So check this out. An article that just came out says founder and CEO Andrew Dudum said his previous comments offering support for anti-Israel protesters on college campuses were misconstrued by some after the company's stock dipped. In a thread on X, he wished to clarify his earlier comments and said he does not support violence, anti-Semitism, or intimidation. He says the last few days have been a disheartening reflection of just how divisive a time we live in, Dudum began. I'd like to clarify a few things because my words have been misconstrued by some. I in no way condone or support acts of threats or violence and anti-Semitism or intimidation, and there is absolutely no justification for violence on our campuses. Every student deserves to feel safe without fear of harm or being targeted for who they are. I am deeply saddened that my support for peaceful protest has been interpreted by some as encouraging violence, intimidation, or bigotry of any kind.
I don't know how else you would take it. I mean, you are promoting one of the most violent sects of that part of the country. Mm-hmm. Essentially the Hamas, which set off the entire thing. And then this whole like genocide thing, like hasn't the Palestinian population been growing year over year?
I'm not sure.
It has.
Yep.
And so how can it be a genocide if the population continues to grow?
Yep.
Really what I think that the biggest issue is, and we've been talking about it, most of these kids don't even know what they're actually protesting, number one. Number two, Israel is our only ally as it relates to democracy in that part of the world. And so it's a strategic takedown of democracy in another country where we have supported them because of that. And it's the one part of the country where Jews still can remain their own nation state, mm-hmm. right? Effectively. So his comments are ignorant, insensitive, ill-educated, and he learned the hard way. So he doesn't mean anything that he just said. He's totally full of shit, honestly. But this is the same thing that's happening too. There's a few judges that came out and said the same thing. 11 judges, largely from Texas, obviously conservative, that have come out and said that they will no longer hire Columbia law clerks over the protest. Mm. And pretty much any student coming out of Columbia is what they said, because the way that the whole entire system's been handled over there, that they're just tired of it. It's counterintuitive to following the order of law. And it basically says Columbia has, let's see, the 11 judges, largely from Texas, all appointed by Donald Trump, obviously, said in a Monday letter to Columbia University President Manoush Shafiq that they won't hire law clerks who attend the institution as either undergraduates or law students, starting with next year's entering class. Columbia has instead become an incubator of bigotry. As a result, Columbia has disqualified itself from educating the future leaders of this country. Reads the letter, a copy of which was obtained by Bloomberg Law. Spokespeople for Columbia didn't immediately respond to the request for comment. The letter was signed by U.S. Court of Appeals for the 5th Circuit Judge James Ho, U.S. Court of Appeals 11th Circuit Judge Elizabeth Branch, U.S. Court of Federal Claims Judge Matthew Solomonson. That's a tough one. Who repeatedly said he won't hire students who sign letters he believes effectively support the Hamas terror attacks on Israel on Israel on October 7th. Mm. And so, we've been talking about this. This is your future workforce, and they have no understanding of everything that they're now doing. They're building in public effectively. So that poor girl who's down there protesting, who has no idea, who just became the meme of the week, good luck.
Yeah.
It's going to have some impact on you.
Yeah. And then the flip side being the complimentary side of it being, as the business owner, it's fine to have the moral courage, your own moral courage, to say what you really believe, but you're going to have to stand on it and face whatever consequences it brings to your business.
100%. And I actually give him credit initially for speaking up.
Yeah, we were talking about
saying what he said. The fact that he walked it back. And this is kind of also what happens when you get into private equity, publicly traded, board of advisors. He might not have wanted to walk it back until he got the phone call. He was like, do you like to be the CEO of this company? And so potentially he is pandering to his investor constituents.
Yeah. Snatch that baby right up.
Right. Yeah. So you go public, it changes quite a bit. Even though you're the founder of the company,
yeah,
you might not be for very long. I mean, we saw Sam Altman almost get ousted, right? We've seen Elon get ousted.
Yeah,
it can happen when you're that big with that many people on a board of advisors. And just because you own the large majority of the business doesn't mean that the operating agreement doesn't state otherwise about how decisions are ultimately made.
Yeah, other people's money equals other people's voices.
Right.
It matters. Roger that. Well, moving on, let's talk about another organization in bed with private equity that are the famed Red Lobster. So Red Lobster, ironically enough, guys, Cole and T-Bone over here went and got pounds of crab this weekend from Red Lobster, probably for the last time in their young lives. But Red Lobster is on the verge of filing for bankruptcy. Yahoo Finance article coming by way of Business Insider talks about the demise of Red Lobster is a perfect case study in how to kill a business. It says, with the chain on the verge of bankruptcy, it has become abundantly clear that Red Lobster letting customers eat all the shrimp their hearts desire, like our friends here, was not a great business idea. It's also not the reason the restaurant is in a deep financial mess. So in mid-April, Bloomberg reported that the debt-laden seafood chain and home of the beloved cheddar biscuits, which I've never had, was considering filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Well, why? Because Red Lobster is being bogged down by increased labor costs and expensive leases on its restaurants. Some observers were quick to blame the financial woes on its decision last year to make its endless shrimp promotion, which used to be an occasional lifetime offering, permanent. A limited offering permanent. I'm like reading into it. The move was not a smart one. While Red Lobster increased traffic somewhat, people coming in to chow down on all-you-can-eat shrimp was a money bleeder. Last year, the company blamed endless shrimp for its $11 million losses in the third quarter. And in the fourth quarter, the picture got even worse, with the restaurant chain seeing $12.5 million in little operating losses by way of those shrimp. But the story about what goes wrong with Red Lobster is much more complicated than a bunch of stoners pigging out on shrimp. This guy's going for it in his article. The brand has been plagued by various problems. Waning customer interest, constant leadership turnover, has been in a common tale, and private equity meddling in the business. So been in bad leadership, bad marketing, not necessarily delivering the product experience that justifies you being in business and both satisfies the customer.
So I actually have a couple opinions on this. So my first one is the business model worked. It was an old hat business. As things have become increasingly expensive, there's some truth to what's being said.
Correct.
Second part of that, private equity came in. They probably had a strategic business plan to operate the company in a certain kind of way and exit in a certain kind of way. What private equity does not like is creative reinvention of the business without some sort of ability to build a financial model around it, right? Because sometimes in real entrepreneurship, I'm creating a business and I'm going into uncharted territory. So I'm actually operating a little bit off of instinct and gut with some educated risk taking in order to make that transition out of who we used to be into who we are now. Probably would have been a reinvention of the brand, a rethinking around who their target customer is, how to bring in a younger crowd who's probably the person that's probably going out to eat more often. And obviously just a restructuring of the way that they price their food and their meals, et cetera.
Yep.
And so you've seen a few businesses, a few restaurants do this. We've been talking about in the fast food world, it's happening quite a bit.
Right.
And so legacy companies, if you look at the business lifecycle chart over time, they reach maturity and then they go one of two ways, which is they either reinvent or they die. And so Red Lobster is dying because they didn't reinvent themselves. There's never a point where you're just like, the business is good. I don't need to worry about it anymore. We can just operate like this in perpetuity. Eventually, the market will shift. The generations will shift. The avatar will shift. The real estate will shift. The economy will shift.
Yeah.
And you will have to be ready to pivot. Most of them get caught flat-footed.
So is that the takeaway out there for our entrepreneurs listening, which is these ones who have been building their businesses? Maybe they're in a spot where they're somewhat coasting.
Yep. Yeah, it is. It's also the opportunity. We talk a lot about buying businesses. There's a lot of these legacy companies that are coming to market for sale that you can step in and operate that are a little bit flat in the way that they've been running their business. And so coming in and reinventing the business quite a bit, adding technology, leveraging modern marketing techniques, building in better tools to track labor, cost, et cetera, are all things that you can do to add value to the business. So one man's pain is another man's profit. That's why we're talking about it on the pod.
Mm-hmm. I dig it. I dig it. Well, for the time being, get your endless shrimp while you still can, because it is definitely going away one way or another.
Well, Chapter 11, though, they can also, what they'll do is they'll restructure and then come back and buy it back under a new entity and potentially try to revive it. But I did see in that article, actually, as I was reading a little bit deeper, it said that they should be able to recoup enough of what they invested in the business on the real estate sale.
Yeah.
So theoretically, they might just unwind it and move on. That said, there's an Outback Steakhouse for sale up off Harmony, Fort Collins. It's been for sale for like 3 years and it hasn't sold. And so there's a lot of that restaurant retail space like that is not going anywhere. Nobody wants to buy it. Restaurants are the number one business that fails.
Yeah.
So they might have some trouble selling that real estate.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm sad to see the little guys go away, but I've never had the delicious cheddar biscuits.
Well, we better make a trip then.
We better. Just got to be careful. Just don't get anything on me. I'll watch you guys eat.
Oh, that's right. You're allergic to fish. That's why you haven't had those cheesy biscuits.
Yeah, dude. All right. So we're gonna jump gears a little bit. We're gonna go offshore. We're gonna talk about China real quick, because you shared this post with me that I want to share with our listeners, that we want to share with. I want to share with our listeners. But it comes by way of Yorkshire Trading Academy. And hedge fund manager Kyle Bass on China's stock market crash. And in quotes, for those of you who aren't watching, it says, "This is the U.S. financial crisis on steroids." And so let's check out what he has to say. Before we play the video, I'm going to actually read some of the posts. So it says, day 52. I'm not familiar with Yorkshire Trading Academy. I know Samson follows the content, but it says Kyle Bass gained prominence as an investor after successfully predicting the 2008 financial crisis, foreseeing the subprime mortgage collapse and profiting from it. Here he's discussing the latest rout in Chinese stocks, one of China's largest stock indexes in the CSI 1000, which is designed to replicate the performance of the top 1,000 stocks traded in the Shanghai and Shenzhen stock exchanges. It is similar to the Russell 2000 in U.S. markets. Over the last 10 days, the index has crashed 30%. This comes after China's largest property developer, Evergrande, was ordered to be liquidated.
And just for clarity, this is kind of their specialty, which is finding bad debt markets to invest against.
Yeah.
So 2007, they gained 212% on the subprime mortgage meltdown. They also bet on the Greek debt crisis of 2012, made 16%, nothing too fancy there. Let's see, he started the first Asia focused fund, and the fund after the Japanese yen depreciated 40% from 2012 to 2015. In 2016, he had a knockout with Heyman Capital Master Fund, finishing the year with an estimated 24.83%. And historically, their record has been 25% per year return since 2006, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, wow.
So he might know a thing or two about what he's talking about.
Whoa, so we got a clip queued up.
Single property developer in China that's public or listed is in default. When the Chinese miracle was running its course, a substantial majority of Chinese GDP growth was real estate. And now you're having a reversal after an unregulated and unabated climb in real estate. Now you're seeing a real estate collapse. So this is just like the U.S. financial crisis on steroids. They have 3.5 times more banking leverage than we did going into the crisis. And they've only been at this banking thing for a couple of decades. China is going to get much worse. Every single
on the last pod, we were talking specifically about how they're the second largest holder of U.S. Treasury. And so they were taking advantage of the same cheap money.
Yeah.
That everybody else was. However, in a communist society, the government never wants to look weak. And so they will continue to prop it up and just build as if nothing's ever going to go sideways until the market ultimately shifts. And so what he said at the beginning, which was a little bit cut off, but he said every single property developer in China is in default. And they have 3 times as much leverage in their system as we did heading into the 2007, 2008 housing crash, subprime mortgages, where his fund made 212%. And so he is watching that very closely, probably betting against that market, which is interesting because guys like Ray Dalio have come out and said in the past couple of years that China's, running the potential to be the next superpower. I don't ultimately buy it. I think it's a house of cards, and they have a older population, more old people than they do young people. So they have an infrastructure problem, both in their employment as well as in their actual cities themselves. Right. So it'll be interesting to see how it ultimately plays out. It's ultimately good for
Yes.
us. And it's what we've been talking about. Everything is the United States is removing itself from the grander global economy.
Mm-hmm. Dude, and fascinating stuff. Honestly, it's fascinating because, you know, all we hear over here is, you know, our story, but it's just like,
well, when you talk about it in a vacuum,
right.
like, sure. It's like, just like we were talking about the dollar last week, right? Yes, the people are deleveraging from the dollar, but it still tends to be one of the best houses in a bad neighborhood. And so will it collapse? I don't know. I mean, if we keep printing money the way that we're printing money, for sure. How we unwind it, I have no idea, but in comparison, like everybody's in the same boat.
Right.
And so if one ship goes down, they all go down. We're probably going to be
the last ship to go down.
The last ship to go down. But who knows, ultimately.
Roger that. Well, I mean, it's relevant to what we're going to cover next, which is small business owners. Small business owners reveal what the issues that really are at the heart of their hearts and what they want the candidates, the presumptive candidates, Donald Trump and Joe Biden, to actually have answers for them. And so this comes by way of Fox Business. And I'll pull it up here just to cover it with you guys. So I'm going to skip down to a portion of the article just because, you know, I don't want to read the whole article with you guys. I value your time. But it says, this meat and potatoes right here says, the top issue small business owners want to hear the candidates tackle. First and foremost, inflation. 73% of the business owners surveyed said the problem of soaring prices has not been addressed enough by the candidates or by, I'm going to add, by the administration that's currently in there. 71% of respondents said inflationary pressures have increased on businesses compared to just 3 months ago, and 49% said they had had to raise the price on their goods or services over that period. When asked which items are having a significant impact on their cost of doing business, 81% of small business owners pointed to the rising cost of labor in complement to inflation, while 68% cited increasing cost of commercial insurance. 67% listed the rising cost of goods and inputs as a pain point. No pun intended on the pod here. And 63% listed the increasing costs related to employee benefits and health insurance. So they're trying to figure out how to pay for their people, protect themselves, and operate.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I'd say it's accurate, right? Some of the other things they rolled out this year are, you know, mandatory 401ks. Now you don't have to contribute, but it's still an added cost.
Right.
And obviously you want to pay your people more as the cost of living is going up, but within reason. The cost of living has far exceeded the business owner's ability to raise income to support the needs of their employees.
Facts. And
then inflation is just a hidden tax, right? Because it just gets pushed down to the consumer ultimately. Because as I raise the income for these other people, who's going to pay for that?
Correct.
And so then that creates a whole new challenge of, can the market actually accept that new pricing?
Yeah. Well, and with that, on top of those things, there were a couple other points that I want to mention, which are they want to hear the candidates address small business tax policy. 72% said that, followed by regulatory burden on small businesses, and then access to affordable capital and workforce training.
Right.
So.
Yeah, so the SBA has been there to try to support small business owners, but they're indexed off of the prime interest rate. And so capital is not cheaper, except they're relying, that money is there. I think it's $4 billion a year that the SBA deploys. That money is there for business owners to leverage to expand the business, buy real estate, buy equipment, do real estate construction, buy new businesses, roll them up, et cetera. But same problem that's existing in the world of like residential real estate is existing in this world as well, which is the price of assets is still too high in comparison to the cost of capital. And so I get it. I mean, I feel it straight up.
Yeah.
You feel it straight up. And so we know exactly what is going on here. And I think it's going to be a bigger driver of this election than maybe people are leading on.
Well, that's what I was actually going to say, which is like, if I'm listening to this and I'm on either side, if I'm thinking about the business community, what they're saying, and if you take this as gospel per se, this, hey, does anybody have any answers? I got some answers.
Right.
I have a plan. Here's some leadership. Oh, cool. Trust, right? So
yeah, they're taking away the tax incentives, right? Chasing capital gains, forcing increases in wages, forcing 401ks. They're reducing the accelerated depreciation, right? It was 2 years ago, it was 100% accelerated depreciation you could get. Then it was 80. Now this year it's 60. Then it'll be 40. Then it'll be 20. Then it'll be 0 accelerated depreciation. The reason that's important, if the cost of assets are so high and you go to buy something and you can't offset or by depreciating that, so getting a tax write-off that year, it becomes inaccessible for you, right? You buy $6 million worth of real estate to do a big expansion. You can hire people, yada, 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 but you have no ability to depreciate that. That might hurt you pretty bad.
Right. Yeah. Well, nonetheless, it's a signal to, on either side, hey, you're running the campaigns, you're running the strategy, you're running the campaign events and where you're going to go. People want real answers. They want real guidance. They want real leadership. And so you have an opportunity to do that. So Trump's camp, if you're listening to this, I know you guys regularly tune into the pod quite a bit, but help Trump communicate how he's going to lead people to actually be able to put food on the table, take care of their people, and continue to build up their communities. And likewise, Joe Biden, do the same thing too if you guys are capable of doing that.
Yeah, this just goes back to the point that entrepreneurs have the ability to make such an impact, right? Small 100%. Businesses make up 70% of the economy. They are responsible for a lot of jobs in this country.
Right.
And so we have a voice and we need to use it. We need to speak up and do that at the voting ballot.
100%.
To try to change what's currently going on because it ain't getting any better.
It's definitely not getting any better. Well, and you want to know why it's not going to get any better is because if it continues to go this way, one of the things we're going to continue to see is what we're going to talk about next, which is the desire for AI labor is booming right now.
Yeah, how do we know that? One, it's on the top of everybody's mind, but two, instead of trying to learn this stuff, we're seeing the uptick on these marketplaces where people are looking for AI experts, right?
Yeah. Well, check this out. So another article here by way of foxbusiness.com. Searches for AI skills on gig platforms surge as businesses embrace new technology. Interest in artificial technology. Interest in artificial intelligence has exploded in the last year after the rollout of ChatGPT. We know that. And fresh data indicates the frenzy for AI-related skills is far from over as more businesses embrace the technology. Here's some whopping stats. Freelance digital services platform Fiverr's latest business trend index released Thursday found global searches for AI content editing alone soared by 10,490% over the past 6 months, while inquiries for prompt engineering surged 7,345%, and those related to AI video rose 3,746%. Fiverr's analysis said its findings show tech remains top of mind for business leaders, and trends indicate that they have refined their focus, most importantly, seeking out AI experts to help them create tools and assets aligned with their specific needs.
Yeah. Most people know that it's necessary, but they're not sure how to integrate it. I think that's the bigger problem, especially for small business owners.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. ChatGPT. How do I leverage that in my business? A lot of the integration tools, like from a marketing automation standpoint, now have AI built into them. And so those need to get integrated into their CRM and their marketing automation. Challenges, they might not have the right ecosystem set up in order to be able to do that. And so, yeah, people are quickly falling behind the 8 ball on this big shift that's happening in the market. Those that are adopting it and leveraging it in their business, like we are, have a huge competitive advantage because we can run a skeleton crew and we can make hundreds of thousands of phone calls a week. We can, tap hundreds of thousands of viewers and get eyeballs on our ads. We can communicate through conversational AI to book appointments. And we don't have very many people on our team, right? If you're based off of everything we were just talking about, if you are human capital heavy,
right,
you're looking for ways to offset that. And so that is the gap that AI brings to the table. I think the other big trend that we're going to see, and it's not on here, but I just want to mention it because I'm thinking about a lot, are labor arbitrage. People are going to be going overseas, Philippines, et cetera, where people speak incredible, perfect English. They have great skill set, but the cost of living is substantially lower.
Correct.
And so between AI and overseas talent, it's going to be one of the ways necessary to compete. Because why would I pay a graphic designer $80, $90, $100,000 a year when I can just get a person over in the Philippines who will do it for 25,
right,
or 30,
right? Actually, that makes me. There's a clip floating around from Sam Altman that was actually floating around over the weekend. I could have you pull it up, but I don't necessarily want to do that. But he basically lays out he's like, here's how I would advise people on skills to handle AI. And he's essentially saying, like, spend 3 months going deep on it.
Right.
So you can get to a level of being proficient and fast enough with the movement of the technology. But his recommendation was to spend about 3 months getting really deep into it and forming the skills necessary to continue to move along with it. And that was his recipe of encouragement for people as they're looking at some of these prospects of, like, losing out to, Filipino talent.
Yep.
And so
it's going to be a reskilling. People are still trying to figure out how to leverage it. If you think of it more like an assistant, not like a competitor against you, you'll be less afraid of it. But people are just law of diffusion of innovation, right? There's 2.5% of the populations that's the innovator, 13.5% that are the early adopter, 34% are the early majority. And the hardest is to go from the early adopters to the early majority. We've already kind of crossed that chasm, which Jeffrey Moore talks about in his book, Crossing the Chasm, that about 18.5% is the clip. So the early majority won't try something until somebody else has done it first. So right now, I can promise you as a business owner, you want to be in that early adopter, early majority. Don't wait until you're a lagger. Like, the only reason you have a smartphone today is because you can no longer buy a flip phone. The only reason that you had a flip phone in the first place is because you couldn't buy a pager anymore, right? And so we all sit on that at various points in the time frame or in the spectrum of technology, but it's happening exponentially at the moment.
Yeah.
And so you don't have time. The time is right now.
Yeah. And so I'm going to give a shout out to our Gen Zers, not just in our house, but all across, because they've been pivotal. The struggle's been real today. Yeah. They've been pivotal.
Finish that coffee over there, bro. Let me need some caffeine.
In particular, C-Rock guys have been putting me on the game with AI. We had some knockout, drag out slugfest on AI, and I see the light for sure. So shout out to C-Rock. Okay, so have you heard of the Finding the Money film?
I haven't.
So Finding the Money is a film. I think it's an independent documentary. I have it pulled up here. Stephanie Kelton, and she follows. So let me just back up and say, so Finding the Money was put on by Stephanie Kelton, and it follows her on a journey through what is modern money theory, or MMT. And she's on a journey to unveil the deeper story about money, injecting new hope and empowering democracies around the world to tackle the biggest challenges of the 21st century. And chief among them, to her, climate change and inequality, right? But there's a clip from this documentary that is going viral over the weekend, and it's because of a gentleman by the name of Jared Bernstein, who's the chair of the Council of Economic Advisors. Now, if you don't know, if you guys are listening and you're like, what's the Council of Economic Advisors? Well, according to whitehouse.gov, the Council of Economic Advisors is an agency within the executive office of the president, and it is charged with providing the president objective economic advice on the formation of both domestic and international economic policy. So, the chair of this economic advisory board office committee had the following to say in the Finding the Money film.
The U.S. government can't go bankrupt because we can print our own money.
It obviously begs the question, why exactly are we borrowing in a currency that we print ourselves? I'm waiting for someone to stand up and say, why do we borrow our own currency in the first place?
like you said, they print the dollar. So why does the government even borrow?
Well, again, some of this stuff gets, some of the language that some of the language and concepts are just confusing. I mean, the government definitely prints money, and it definitely lends that money, which is why the government definitely prints money, and then it lends that money by selling bonds. Is that what they do?
Oh dear Lord.
They sell bonds. Yeah, they sell bonds, right? Because they sell bonds and people buy the bonds and lend them the money. Yeah, so
they rehypothecate
a lot
the
of
money.
times, at least to my ear with MMT, the language and the concepts can be kind of unnecessarily confusing, but there is no question that the government prints money and then it uses that money to
I can't do.
Yeah, I guess I can't really talk. I don't get it. I don't know what they're talking about. Like, because it's like the government clearly prints money. It does it all the time, and it clearly borrows. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this debt and deficit conversation. So, I don't think there's anything confusing there.
Okay, so
he answered the question by repeating the question repeatedly, and then try to throw that back and say, I don't understand why you're asking this question.
So just for context, like just for out of intellectual integrity, we don't have the complete context. It's just a clip. But the appalling image, I think, the appalling optic is the words, I don't get it, coming out of the mouth of the chair of the Council of Economic Advisors tasked with giving the president and the executive branch objective economic information. The words, I don't get it, should not be anywhere in that man's vocabulary when it comes to economics.
Didn't I read that his background was like music and...
Well, yes, you did, my friend. So Jared Bernstein, if you do a quick search, Wikipedia, the world's most important website on earth, Jared Bernstein is an economist who's the chair, which we already know, but look at his early life and education. So he grew up in a musical family and aspired to be a professional musician as a young person. He graduated with a bachelor's degree in music from the Manhattan School of Music, where he studied double bass with Orrin O'Brien. Throughout the 80s, Bernstein was a mainstay on the jazz scene. He also earned a Master's of Social Work from Hunter College, as well as a DSW in Social Welfare from Columbia University. Shout out to Columbia School of Social Work.
He's of Jewish descent.
At Columbia, his dissertation advisor was Erwin Garfinkel, he is of Jewish descent. But check this out. Like, he taught at Howard University, Columbia, and New York University. Areas of interest include federal, state, and international economic policies, specifically the middle class squeeze, income inequality, and mobility, trends in unemployment, and earnings, low wage markets, poverty, and international comparisons. He is known as a critic of free trade agreements such as NAFTA.
So, I mean, to his credit, he's old enough to have gone on and learned
100%.
Learned a bunch of stuff, regardless of what his collegiate degree was.
Absolutely.
But the concept of just rehypothecation of money and printing money, why are we paying taxes? Why are we printing money? Why are we lending it to ourselves? And then selling that to the American people so that they give us money and then we give them interest on that money. There's no consideration of the repercussion of that. And he's living in a fantasy world. Like, all of us in this room don't get to just print money when we need more of it. Right? We have to go add value to the marketplace. And that's the biggest problem that we're up against right now, is the government has gotten so big directly in their relationship with the Federal Reserve that they can just print their way out of it and not actually create real value. We went through it a few podcasts ago where we were going through all the different government programs, all the money that just got pushed into the infrastructure bill. And the majority of those programs don't make money.
Correct.
And so we just need to do away with them. Along with this guy's salary.
Well, send it out, fam. Send it out.
Oh, man.
Okay, so guys, you got to put that up on their pod. Look, what the perspective I come from, being a brand head, is just like, at some point, the American people, and in particular, speaking to those of you who are listening who might be on the left, at some point, you know, enough is enough. At some point, you're going to realize this is what they call it, a dog and pony show.
Yeah.
Like at some point, you're going to have to accept the truth that these people, whether it's him, whether it's press secretary Jean Pierre, at some point, you're going to have to just say, you got to do better. You got to do better. And in fact, you've shown yourself incapable of doing better. I'm moving on.
Right.
I'm moving on because if you continue with this, it's just, it doesn't end well. And so for me, being a brand and leadership guy, I'm just like, it's not a good look for you guys. And it shouldn't be. And at some point, we're just going to have to say enough is enough. And we don't even need to bag on homeboy. He's doing it for himself. He's doing it for himself, right? And they're doing it to themselves. And enough is enough, man. And the optics of this are just terrible. That the person responsible for objective economic information can't answer a question objectively about what's happening in the economy. Like,
yeah, part of that is he's never been challenged too. I think that might be the first time he's ever had to answer.
Well, you can see in his body language, right?
Those questions, yeah. And so there's a lot of distraction going on with, you know, social issues, etc., so that I can sit back here and not actually have to know anything,
right?
Not actually have to solve real problems or add real value to it.
Yeah.
So it is a dog and pony show.
One of the interesting things was to watch him repeat himself. And I was like, when do I do that? If I've ever done that. That's in a moment when you haven't really thought about what you're about to say.
Yeah.
And you're thinking about it on the fly.
You're talking and thinking at the same time. Yeah.
And you're just hoping that connection, that severed, comes back by saying it again. It's like, bro, come on, man.
Well, your problem is the anxiety starts to rise in that situation. And then your intellect goes down as you get more nervous.
So, okay. So before we pivot, where can we steer our entrepreneur here in terms of just analyzing these kinds of things?
I mean, the first thing is just, you know, get out and vote, right? And we got to like change these actual policies. Number one, there's so many entrepreneurs that are like, I just want to make money, want to put my head in the sand. I don't want to get involved and do these things. And we have to. Like, entrepreneurs have been driving the country for hundreds of years. And so it's important for us to actually get out in our communities, in our schools, in our local government, in our state government. We can't necessarily control what's happening at the federal level, but we can win on a local level. And so it's just, I implore you guys to get out and actually do something about it. Use your platform that you have. You have influence, right? So stop being afraid of using your influence to make impact and change the way that people think. And it might not happen immediately, but you'll definitely plant a seed that causes them to think about what they're talking about.
Fact. That's good. Okay, well, Candace Owens in the Daily Wire
on the topic of brand,
on the topic of brand and leadership, and but the way I have this here, guys, on my preparation board, here's my headline: the Daily Wire should fire their PR and brand team immediately because the result. This is not a good look. So, this initial tweet comes by way of Glenn Greenwald, and it says, exclusive, as the Daily Wire publicly negotiated a debate with Candace Owens, which there's a bunch of tweets and things online. You can follow that timeline. It secretly sought and has now obtained a gag order against her. We have a Fox News, we have a Daily Post article that complements this post. And so it says the right-leaning news and commentary site, The Daily Wire, obtained a gag order against former host Candace Owens, despite co-founder Ben Shapiro claiming he wanted to publicly debate her about Israel and anti-Semitism. The Daily Wire secretly sought to muzzle Owens through a private arbitrator after she left the company in March, wrote Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Glenn Greenwald in his Locals newsletter on Thursday. And Glenn's a credible guy. He tries to be fair, at least in the content that I've consumed of him. The gag order was approved as Shapiro and Daily Wire CEO Jeremy Boring were publicly negotiating with Owens on an agreed-upon venue, date, and time for a debate that had been widely anticipated by readers and viewers of their social media correspondence with one another. Boring told Greenwald that his report is inaccurate to the point of being false. He did not elaborate. I'm sure you can appreciate how fraught a high-profile breakup like this is. For that reason, we are trying to resolve our issues with Candace privately. Boring is quoted as telling Greenwald. Owens told Greenwald she can neither confirm nor deny. Of course, she has a gag order. I wish I could comment on this, but I can't. The Post has sought comment from Daily Wire and Owens.
I wonder if per her contract, there was some non-disclosure that was supposed to be kept, and they're now trying to follow through on that.
Yeah, you know, and they're to listeners and people who follow this, obviously there's a lot of context, right? But I just think from a going back to brand and leadership, business, you know, the stuff your employees now have to deal with, your consumers, your customers are now considering, why even go through the steps of like, oh, yeah, we'll have a debate. We'll do this. We'll talk about this. We fired Candace and it was on, you know, it was for these reasons. The more you, again, like to your point, we don't know what is going on behind the scenes, but the awareness, at least what is seemingly like a lack of awareness of the front-facing nature of this and how it can impact their businesses.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like they were given the rope a dope.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, let's just string it along so she's not paying attention. And then over here, we'll be setting up the gag order and then we'll squash the whole thing. And Kansas City shuffle, right? We're going right, everybody's going left.
And it's potentially very posing the threat to be very detrimental to their business. I mean, I know conservatives that are literally like, dude, I'm over the shenanigans.
It would have been better to just do nothing.
Yeah.
Right. And just let her go about her way. And if she wants to pop off at the mouth, then let her do that.
And even if some of the stuff is unfavorable, it's just like when you take it, and it's just like what they're doing with Trump, right? The second you start telling someone you cannot say anything at all, you amplify their voice through putting the silence on them.
Yep.
And it's like, so anyways, we got a kick out of that one there, but gag orders going all around for people.
Well, I mean, I think the lesson there too is it feels like sometimes when a key person leaves your company, that you maybe want to go after them.
Right.
Maybe they went and started a competing company. We talked about that. Non-competes are gone, but if they're an executive, there's still some credibility to those non-competes. It's just better to if you have built such a good business, like, come on, like, welcome to capitalism. If you think you can take on the risk and compete with me and actually do that, by all means, like, go for it.
Dude, and we've never seen a time like this where you can actually lift up the hood and use it to your advantage as a business leader.
Right.
If should something ever pop off. If I'm willing to lift up the hood and say, no, this is who we are, this is how we stand on, this is what we operate, here's our people, here's a conversation, here's the receipts, as the kids like to say, he's got the receipts. I'm going to win in today's age.
Yeah.
If I don't have nothing to hide, and it's like these kinds of things make people and customers think you got things to hide. And without that communication, where there's a vacuum, customers don't tend to move favorably on your side.
Yeah, it's just funny how we tend to, like, from us on the outside looking in, like, we've followed the Daily Wire story, but I'm not thinking about it every day.
Correct.
They're thinking about every day.
Right.
And so to them, it feels like this is the biggest problem. Everybody's looking at me and we need to do something about it immediately. But truthfully, no, they're not. They're thinking about themselves, and you would just be better to just go build a better product, don't try to sue people out of existence. If you're really that much better, like, go be better.
Well, yeah. And to the brand that they've been building, to the point of their brand is like, if you say you're going to have a debate, you better have a debate.
Right.
Because that's literally part of your brand is like,
yeah, I'll debate anybody.
Yeah. I'll show up anywhere and slug it out. Like, I'm not afraid. Like, stand on that. Like, brand matters, man. And yeah, so we're going to move on from them. We got last two clips here with you guys. It's funny. I love what we do because we get to pull from just all over. And I've realized, like, how many times I've said today, there's this clip that, but there's this clip of a student at Arizona State University, and it's about 2 minutes. So as you listen in versus watching, why we pulled it in is because we talk about leadership, we talk about parenting, we talk about the various different things that entrepreneurs have to deal with on a daily basis. But there's a principle here, whether you're a part of the workforce or you're the one, bringing the people into the organization. And it's hopefully that you're leading and living with the values of being able to accept the like the consequences of your actions.
Yes, personal accountability.
Yeah.
That's the biggest issue that we're up against right now as a country, especially with this generation who's never really experienced hard stuff.
Well, and as we hear her words, that's the thing that stands out to me as a watcher of this content and as a business owner, as someone looking at what's happening around us, is the consequence. There's a lack of consequences, and then there's the unwillingness to accept the consequences for those who do actually face them, and that doesn't mix for any sort of progression or growth. So,
I mean, I'm a little disappointed. I'm being restricted from a lot of things right now that I didn't expect to be for standing up for something that I believe in. You know, I have family coming in who I have to let them know to, you know, not come to my graduation ceremonies. I am glad that there is a guarantee that my courses will be taken care of, so I don't have to worry necessarily about my graduation requirements and the fact that I will earn my degree as I have spent the past 4 years doing. But I'm just disappointed. I mean, I'm a 2020 high school grad, so I wasn't able to walk then. And so, you know, here it is. I'm not able to walk now.
Knowing, you know, what you know now, and, you know, like you said, you were standing up for a cause, would you do it again?
I mean, yeah, I would. I was doing what I believed was right, and I still believe it to be right. I would stand up for the cause again, even if it means something negative to me, because like the cause is so much harm has been done to all of those people already. I am safe. I am fine. I might not graduate, and that might harm future job prospects and stuff like that, but I'm not I'm not like in physical danger. I'm not constantly worried about being hurt or being forced from my home or anything like that.
Right.
I would absolutely,
like, yeah. There's a lot of ways to take that and watching it all the way through.
I mean, yeah, I get it. It sucks. But the reality, like the real life is there's consequences.
There's consequences, absolutely.
And if it's that important to you, then be ready to face it. Like if you really meant what you were saying right now, you wouldn't be crying.
Right.
You'd be like, absolutely.
Right.
I'm stoked to not graduate because we clearly made an impact. But to her, graduating is most important. And then just like stuff she says, like, it's going to hurt my job prospects. Like, no, this video is probably going to hurt your job prospects more than not graduating. Right. Would have been better for you to just stay under the radar.
Yeah.
You can always go finish out your degree. There's plenty of people who have been very successful who didn't even go to college.
Yeah. Dude, and I kind of look at this on a couple of different levels. One of them being the words people choose. You see a lot of these young students, they talk about the cause. And when you talk about a cause, one of the things I've come to at least consider is, I think when you use this word, the cause, that we see floating around these universities, it points to me to this dichotomy that these students live in that's almost temporary, where they're in the middle of the conflict and the things that they're engaging in, but they don't actually anticipate it invading their actual lives.
Right.
Because it's just this thing to be passionate about, to be interested in, to stand up for, and it's temporary. But if you look around the world, and if you look around the very people that they're claiming to be supporting, it's not a cause. Not a cause. This is who they are. This is a matter of faith. This is like complete identity wrapped up into something. And so I just look at this and I'm like, okay, make your choices, live with your consequences, but also you haven't actually thought this through.
Yeah, when you hear people talk about a soft generation, that's it. Like, at least how I grew up, you know, if you were popping off at the mouth, you got smacked.
Yeah.
You weren't allowed to just run your mouth and not actually back it up. And that taught you some things early that like, hey, if I do this, I might get my ass kicked. And candidly, like there's just not enough of that going on anymore. People can say whatever they want with no recourse. They live inside of a bubble. They've never experienced anything hard. Could you imagine what it was like for our grandparents, World War II, watching the announcement on TV when they pulled out your birthday to see if you were going to actually get drafted?
Right.
That's like some heavy stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
That's, you know, mouth matching action stuff.
Right.
And none of them have had to experience anything like that. I haven't had to experience anything like that.
Right.
Closest thing that I came to hardship was 2008, you know, coming out of school during that time period. And even then I looked back and it was like, I had food on my table. I figured it out. It was hard, but I'm alive. There was no threat of dying, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Dude, last thing before we could shift gears is like, to me, it's like these young people aren't thinking. These younger folks, we're young too, but they're not thinking about it. It's just like blind faith. And in matters of faith, entrepreneurship, leadership, relationships, you have to count the cost. And I just see a bunch of young people who haven't actually counted the cost, man. They haven't actually thought through about the ideas that they're espousing, that they're claiming to, you know, hold and, you know, are promoting or the consequences of these ideas. And excuse me, we have a responsibility as those who are leading communities and businesses to try to be conduits of that to actually take place. It's like, that's the takeaway I have for our listeners is like, try to be a conduit of these young people engaging with ideas and getting them to try to count the cost and process what they think and why, because it's just momentum that they're getting caught up in. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, it's when you see people get caught in a riot who've never committed any crime. It's like, how did this happen? It's just groupthink.
Yeah, or someone's like, we're being oppressed on campus and we have to sneak food in. Well, it's like, actually, you could just leave. You could just walk out and go to McDonald's and come back if you wanted to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, so, anyways, last clip here comes by way of Scott Galloway. Found us on YouTube. It's titled Terrible Advice for Young People, which is a terrible title, but you'll see from the actual clip itself what he's getting at.
Scott, why is it more important to find your talent than your passion, as you suggest in your book? Oh, yes. What a great, interesting point. Yeah, I read, find your talent over your passion.
Anyone who tells you to follow your passion is already rich.
This is true. That's true. It's good, right?
And the guy telling you to follow your passion made his billions in iron ore smelting. Yeah. This is your job. Your job is to find your talent and then develop mastery. And in an industry that has a 90+% employment rate, you want to be a model, an athlete, an actor. Just keep in mind, if you don't get bright signals from a very early stage that you're in the 0.1%, which Don is, find an industry that's boring, that you can develop mastery. You know what you're going to become passionate about? Making a shit ton of money so you can take care of your kids and your parents. It is terrible advice for young people.
So
yeah,
that was cool.
I mean, that's entrepreneurship though, right? And there's probably not a ton of people who are like super inspired by HVAC, but they're good at it. You know, I use my brother as an example of this. He has always been very skilled with his hands. He'd rather work outside, do hard labor than he's not a white collar guy at all. But he found this passion for landscaping and sprinklers, right? And so he literally has a sprinkler like wrench that he carries with him, screwdriver everywhere. And he'll just like tune up people's sprinklers as we're walking by, right? Because he's really good at it. He understands how to put the whole system together, the yard, the plants that need to go into it. And he can run these crews and like take something that's ugly and turn it into something beautiful. And as a byproduct of that, he's become passionate. His talent is he's very good at that type of thinking, right? The mechanical mind. And then he's developed that along with, you know, as he was growing up, he was working projects and jobs with my dad and developed some project management skills and some leadership skills. So he's been managing subs for a really long time. And so it has become his passion, right? Because he's dang good at it. I've talked to him a bunch. Like, are you sure you want to keep doing this? You know, and don't you want to go to school and, you know, maybe go get a construction management degree or something like that and level up. He's like, no, I'm like at the top of the food chain within this organization, and I have a real opportunity to potentially take it over or buy them out or something like that in the future. And so this is a tremendous point. You know, people go to school and they're like, I'm going to study the orcas or the sea mammals. You know, it's like, okay, cool. I get it. You're passionate about that. But I can promise you won't be very passionate about it when you're making $20,000 a year. You know?
I'm a minor in protesting. All right. All right. With that being said, all right, guys, thanks for tuning in with us as we wrap this episode of Pain Points, where the world meets business. Wherever you are in the ever-changing landscape of entrepreneurship, we're in your corner. We're rooting for you. So thanks for tuning in. We appreciate your time. As always, like, comment, subscribe, share, but we just appreciate you.
Yep.
Every week tuning in. Take care.